writing essays with Mr. Wimble. How to write essays by Wimble.
Welcome to another video on essay writing. We're continuing to look at structure with a final glance at structuring conclusions. But before we do, let's go back and gain a little bit of context about what we've looked at so far. For a more in-depth look, click on the links to watch the videos on structuring introductions and paragraphs. But briefly, structuring introductions consisted of beginning with an answer, discussing the criteria you used to come up with that answer, then listing the evidence you've got to prove you're right as an outline. Following on from the outline, we then have paragraphs expanding on each of the pieces of evidence we've got to prove we're right, finally finishing up with a conclusion. When structuring paragraphs, we had a topic sentence, which was basically the paragraph summary. Then we developed, explained, elaborated, and gave an example of the evidence, and then finally proved why the evidence shows we're right about our answer. But what about conclusions? Maybe a helpful place to start is by dispelling some myths people have about conclusions. They are not just the same as the introduction, nor do they simply summarize the whole essay. The conclusion is crucial because it both ties together your argument and then convinces us that that argument is right. It's the final piece in the puzzle, so to speak. So how do we structure conclusions? Remember, this isn't the only way to structure them. It's just what I find a helpful way. You refer to the question, then give your answer to that question, support that answer with the paragraph conclusions you've already come up with, then you have one more chance to convince the reader that this answer is right. First, refer to the question. This is almost like applying the brakes to your essay. The paragraph should have been building and building and building, and now you're saying to the reader, stop. Listen one more time. Really, you're framing the conclusion by reminding the reader this is what we're talking about. Once you've done that, you as clearly as possible answer the question you've just referred to. It should almost feel like a call and response. Then you remind the reader of the conclusions you came up in your supporting paragraphs. These should not be long, detailed, exact replicas. In fact, they should be relatively short and concise. It should feel like the reader is going down a slide and they're coming to an inevitable conclusion. Basically, your argument is gathering momentum and it is clear that you're coming to the final part of it. And to continue the analogy, you finish with one final statement, one final push of momentum so that they finish off the slide, stand up and are ready to move on knowing you were correct. So, one more time for those playing at home. Why is structure so important for essays? Sticking to your structure acts like a checklist to ensure that you've completed every part of the essay that's required. It also ensures that you stick to your argument and don't make that dreadful mistake of slipping into narrative. An essay with a good structure will have an argument that flows naturally from one part to the next. An argument that builds and builds until it comes to the inevitable conclusion. A conclusion that asks, remember the question? Well, that's the answer I gave you. Here's a reminder of all the times I proved that to be right with evidence. Then that final statement, the knockout punch that, because you followed your structure, has the reader asking, well, what other answer could there have been? Once you've done that, drop your pen, massage your now aching, cramped hand, and go and grab a Milo. This has been Structuring Conclusions from the Wimbledon channel. If you have any questions, comment below. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe.